This is a Heart and Hand production. Hello everyone, it's David here with a breaking news pod update, and that news is that Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell are gone. Rangers have issued a short statement today saying Rangers Football Club confirms it has parted company with CEO Patrick Stewart and Sporting Director Kevin Thelwell. Rangers expresses its sincere gratitude to both Patrick and Kevin for their leadership and unwavering commitment to the club. Chairman Andrew Kavanagh and Vice Chairman Parag Marathi have already begun the search process, and until permanent hires are made, Director Fraser Thornton will assume the role of acting CEO. A short and, for many Rangers supporters, sweet statement, bringing to the end two reigns of terror, I think would probably be the best way to describe that, and certainly moves that I think will be greeted with almost unanimous backing from the support. Joining me to discuss it is, first of all, Dave.
Afternoon, guys.
And Colin.
Afternoon.
Now, lads, Dave, I'll admit to being surprised by the timing. Probably admit to being surprised by how quickly this has happened, because I did think that I've said this on shows, both I thought were doomed. But I thought it would be staggered, towards the end of the season kind of thing. I thought maybe Stewart they might let go after a year and sort of claim, well, he was only here for the takeover. And was only going to do a year. And Thelwell, I thought they might let muddle on till the end of the season, then part company. But no, and fair play to Kavanagh and Marathi. These were decisions that needed taken, and both have been taken.
Yes, very Rangers. It seems like a decision has been taken quicker than we thought it would be, but still somehow too late as well. Yeah, I mean, the positions at the club are untenable. We've been unfortunate at Rangers over these last 5 or so years, where we've had plenty of people in positions that were well above their station, well above their qualifications and their skills. And unfortunately, I think Stewart and Thelwell are right at the top of that list. Stewart, for himself, that this isn't just this season with Patrick Stewart. That needs to be, emphasised as well. His failure to sack Clement after the Queen's Park game last year, only to sack him a few weeks later. The nonsense over the Souness banner at the Old Firm game last season, and just a guy that just filled you with absolutely no confidence, was clearly in a position that he didn't merit and was not the person that you needed, leading Rangers day to day. And in terms of Kevin Thelwell, I mean, we're seeing how good that guy was. Watching our team every week, we are a very, very poor football team. I think it would have been an easy win for the owners, to be getting rid of Martin and Thelwell at the same time, to put them out in front of the cameras a couple of times after Russell Martin was sacked and Danny Rowe came in. I think was crazy. But even though I'm saying I do think this decision should have been taken earlier, I am glad it's been taken now, because it now gives us a chance, even though it's a very small window to do so, to get someone in and try and get a good January window.
Colin, your immediate thoughts?
Yeah, I'm surprised, delightfully surprised, but surprised nonetheless. It was just 9 days ago, I think, that we had a big puff piece on the website from Kevin Thelwell talking about these plans for the club going forward, about how everything was going to work and everything like that. So it has been quite a dramatic turnaround in that small time scale. Their performance hasn't been good enough, and that's why they're gone. If you take away the performance side of it, the negativity around the two of them became just all-encompassing, and you just can't have that. The accounts come out on Friday. They were actually not bad reading. We're in a pre-player played and profit, which is a massive thing we're working towards. Costs are down, profits are up. But one of the big news stories coming out of that was Patrick Stewart's wage. A wage that actually for a chief exec was quite justified. Not the performance.
A decent chief exec, yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. So it's when that becomes the noise for absolutely everything, and whenever anything happens, Rangers can't announce a new strip without people just talking about Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell.
Yeah.
It's so toxic, it's so gone. And this weekend, more than any, has shown us that we are in a title race now. We need unity. We need everybody behind the team. And this is probably one of the biggest things owners could have done to get that togetherness and to let everybody, all supporters, put that energy into just supporting the team and really fighting on all fronts now for what we're seeing on the park. It's taken too long. I agree with Dave. Does seem to be, I think, a bit of a hesitation with the Americans when they've got something wrong to actually go out and do it. We saw that with Russell Martin. We've seen it again now with Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart. I don't know if that's self-belief in their side, or loyalty, or even just stubbornness. But I think decisions like this need to be made quicker, or ideally they don't need to be making at all. But that seems a bit of a dream. But yeah, to a Monday morning, I wasn't expecting this conversation to be having, so delighted with that, and I wonder where we go now.
No, I have to say, rumours on this, none. Even at the game at the weekend, there was not talk in the stands about it. Dave, about a month ago, I was having a chat with a journalist, and he said, and I reiterated my belief that both were dead men walking, and he said, well, he backed them at the press conference for Danny Rule, Andrew Kavanagh. He can't really turn around and sack them now, and I said, yes, he can. I said, because people tell fibs at press conferences. Managers do that, and I think sometimes we've got a tendency, but what comes out publicly isn't always what's going on privately. Now, my understanding on it is that basically the decision had been made. They used the last international window to move on a manager, and they used this international window to move on CEOs and directors of football. And I think that is kind of, borne out by it. So, I mean, at least it's clear now that they admit that, look, we got things wrong, badly wrong, that they are aware that the start of the season has been completely unacceptable. They're aware whose fault it was, and obviously as owners, they bear ultimate responsibility. I am not in any way trying to take away the responsibility, but they're not going to sack themselves. So I think that at least now they've cleared the rubble out of the way a little bit. What I'm hoping is that this painful lesson has given them more insight into Rangers, for the simple fact being, I will go at my grave, Dave, thinking that all of them come in and underrated the size of the challenge up here. They thought, it's only Scotland. If we have people from England and we sign players from England, we'll be absolutely fine. And now they went, all right, okay, no.
Yeah, well, it'd have been great if, the Americans took over and everything went rosy, but I think that's exactly what's happened. It's been that it's only Scotland attitude from the people we've put into positions behind the scenes in the club and to the players we've brought in. It screams of it's only Scotland attitude. What, as you say there, what they need to do now is they need to get things right. They need to understand the magnitude of the task that they've got, being the owners of Rangers. I'm sure they'll certainly know now what the pressure's like, because we've seen Andrew Kavanagh at games being caught on camera and not looking all too happy and comfortable in the director's box, and neither he should be, because the job that has been done since the takeover has been woefully under par. We are in a terrible position as a football club. The team is far worse from what it was last season. And it's not as if we had a great team last season as well. The people they've put in place to take the club forward were clearly not up for the job. So you have to say, right, okay, we've made this mistake. I don't think there's much point, although it will in the coming days, going over it and saying it was a terrible idea bringing these guys in the first place, which it was. The important thing now is that they focus on going forward, bringing in the right people, and not just well, this guy was at Everton, this guy was at Man United, he'll do up here. Bring in somebody who's going to be good for Rangers.
Colin, let's start with Patrick Stewart. I used the phrase, and it kind of stuck to him a little bit, a deeply unimpressive figure, and I stick with that. Every time there was a challenge, he was found wanting. He came across, as Dave mentioned earlier, as indecisive. He came across as somebody who refused to accept reality that was in front of him, such as Clement, such as Russell Martin. And to me, he always looked like a guy who was completely out of his depth, because being the CEO of Rangers is different to being the CEO anywhere else. There is a public-facing side of it. There is a presence you need within the game in Scotland And at no point did he ever come close to measuring up. And that's before you add into the fact that I think he was an absolutely dreadful public performer. When you put him in front of a camera, he was dreadful. He tended to make situations worse, not better. I just think that this was a small man in a role that needs a big man.
Yeah, it's a phrase I don't like, but he just never really got it. I don't think, David. I don't think he ever really understood the demands of Rangers, what was expected of him, what he should be doing. You see him coming in, you think, he's comes from Manchester United, who, despite their troubles, still do have a bit of gravitas about them, or at least you like to think they do, and you think he must have something about him, but it never showed up, really. You're right, he never looked impressive when speaking, which really has to be a key part of that role.
It does.
Because if you're going to have a head coach and not a manager, then you need support from the rest of the club, from the leadership and down, to come out and do that, have those big conversations, have those big interviews, get that information across. And he seemed to hide from that. He had a number of big issues with, Dave mentioned Clement, he mentioned the TIFO with the Souness banner at the Old Firm game. He's never really come out and addressed any of that. He's a guy that just kind of stumbled around, made mistakes. There's not really a single positive thing we can say about Patrick Stewart. And for somebody that's been here, the length of time he's now been here and overseen managers coming in, managers leaving, transfer windows, everything else, there's absolutely nothing you can hang your hat on and say, well, at least he did this, but at least he did that. He just wasn't a good fit for the club. Like I said, I don't think he really got it, and the job was too big for him, and I don't think he liked it from the minute he was here. He never ever looked like he was happy in the job. He never ever looked like a guy that I felt had the self-belief that it was all going to come good, or that he got this. It was going to just be a guy, I think, who was waiting for the eventual payoff, because he'd bitten off more than he could chew, and he didn't like it. And he got a lot of bad treatment, or deserved bad treatment at times, from supporters and stuff, and I think that seemed to get to him. He didn't seem to be a guy who could take that in his stride. He seemed to cower from it and hide, and that again is something you just don't need from a chief exec. You need a strong personality, a strong man, a guy that can take challenges head on, and he never ever gave that aura at all.
No, I totally agree with that. He looked like a guy who thought, I'm in the wrong movie.
Yeah.
I thought right from the start. And Dave, Kevin Thelwell, disastrous recruitment in the summer, and that's why it's hard to totally celebrate this, because we still have to unpick the damage that he has done, because a lot of those players will need shipped on. I'm a great believer that you shouldn't pull people up. Sometimes a mistake is so big that there are still consequences, but it's hard to be angry at people for mistakes that can only be seen with hindsight. Mistakes that can be seen at the time are different. We did a poll on here, one of the most sensible places in Rangers fan culture, and 95% of fans didn't want Russell Martin.
Yep.
Everybody knew that was the wrong move. 8 million on Yusuf Chermiti, categorically not what Rangers need. And I'm not blaming the boy here, folks, and he has become an emblem of Kevin Thelwell, but £8 million on someone unproven, totally unproven, without even maybe, a couple of good seasons in another league, just a totally unproven player, not a good idea at all. And I think that how could there be trust in that person leading up our January recruitment to undo the damage that he himself had done?
The simple answer to that is there couldn't be. The guy was a complete disaster, David. I remember me and you were doing a show, it might have been an update, and the rumours were just starting about Russell Martin being favoured for the job, and we both kind of just laughed it off. And then within a week, it was, no, it's going to be Russell Martin. It was like, at no point did that ever seem like it was going to be a good fit. And as you say, this is not hindsight. This was worries and thoughts day one about how a Russell Martin Rangers was going to go, and it went exactly how we thought. The players that we've brought in are simply not good enough. The money that we've spent is simply criminal. I mean, if there was such a thing as a football war crime, then I'd be getting up, Kevin Thelwell to the football version of The Hague, because the money that we've wasted over the summer is incredible. We had a great opportunity this summer to totally restart this team, put us on a good footing up against a Celtic who for years now have been dying to rip themselves apart, and we've not been able to lay a glove on them. And once again, we've done the same thing. Started the season absolutely terribly and gave them a wee bit of a free hit. The players he brought in, the utter joke that was assigning his own boy a job I don't care how good he is. Why would anyone
You
think
couldn't
that was
do
a
that.
good idea at that time?
Yeah, you
It's just
didn't
just
have the.
incredible.
Yeah, and again, that to me, it's not so much doing it as not knowing you can't do it,
Yeah,
or knowing you can't do it and doing it anyway. Either or is a terrible look. Either or is he just doesn't care. What is interesting is that the staff that he's brought in, we're led to believe, are staying. So the guy from Wolves, his son, the guys from Everton. Now, long term, we'll see how that works out with the likes of Thelwell Jr. And whatnot. Colin, interestingly, when Danny Rowe came in, a few people say, oh, he's a puppet for Thelwell and whatnot. But as we've clearly seen, he has moved. He's always, I thought, aligned himself with the fans. He's never done that Russell Martin thing of aligning himself with the people who were in charge. And I think it's pretty clear that his insight will have been asked on this by the higher ups, and he's kind of come to the same conclusion as we have by the looks of it.
Yeah, I'm glad we can put that sort of puppet stuff to bed after 4 league games. That's a good thing for us, I think, and a good thing for Danny Rowe, who has done a great job, I think, at bringing the fans on side. He's got pretty much everyone behind him. They sing his song every game. He's done a great job at actually going out and speaking to fans at the end of games, in airports, all sorts of stuff. He's really, really kind of enamoured himself to people in that way. And when he talks, he talks well. We still need to see more of that translating on the pitch and everything else. But yeah, he's done well. I'm actually quite enthusiastic about David about the January window. If Danny Rowe's going to have more of a say in it now, because it's probably going to be too soon for anything else to come in properly and have a real good say on it. So I think if you look at Danny Rowe, who's got contacts potentially Germany at Leipzig and Bayern, he's got contacts at Barca, contacts across football. I think it opens us up to a far bigger market than Kevin Thelwell's sort of narrow-minded market or very small market that he seemed to enjoy shopping in. This January window's huge. Like I said earlier, we are in a title race, which is ridiculous given how we started this season. It's incredible, to be honest, that we're still in a shout here. We need a good window, and I think I've got far more confidence in Danny Rowe after being aware of him for about 6 weeks than I have after all this time with Kevin Thelwell. So yeah, good stuff for Danny Rowe, and looking forward to seeing what he now does in January.
Yeah, look, I'm guilty sometimes, Dave, of deciding something and reading too much into things that back up my own theory, right? I think it's something that we all do, but I did notice, and maybe it was the contrast between Russell Martin, who couldn't go 10 minutes in front of a camera without talking about Kevin and Patrick and how they were all aligned. Danny Rule has never done that, not once, and I thought,
Yeah, well, I mean, imagine the first thing Danny Rale did when he got in and assessed the squad was realise what job he had in front of him, and like, right, well, who do I align myself with? Are the fans who, I can totally understand why they're pissed off because I'm not too happy with these players I've got either,
yes.
or the people who have gave me this squad. I know who I'd be, who I'd be flinging my weight behind. But yeah, listen, this is the thing, the long term effects of Farewell and Stewart in the past summer is going to have on us, regardless what we do in January. Like we could go into January window, have a really good window, bring in 3 or 4 quality players that helps us get a better team on the park this year. When we get to the summer, I still think we're going to be at a stage where we're pretty much ripping it up and starting again. Because I was thinking about this earlier as well. We're talking about bringing in players in January. Where do you start? I mean, pretty much every area of the park, we need more quality in there. The defence is a mess. The midfield looks non-existent most games, and you could barely tell that we have a strike force. So we need pretty much quality all throughout the park. I said we could get January absolutely perfect, but that's not going to be fixed over a January window. We're going to get to the summer again, and we're going to need to get to the point where we're starting from square one again, basically. So in terms of Danny Rule, I'm very much at the point where I'm not really judging what he does. I think everyone that Rule gets at this point is a good job. I think we need to get to the summer, hopefully get someone better than Kevin Farrell in that role that can work with Danny Role and get a proper Rangers team out there for next year. And anything we can do now to the end of the season is a bonus. I can understand what Colin's saying. Like we're only 6 points behind Celtic, nine behind Hearts, I think it is. Theoretically, we're still in there. We're still in with a shout. But if we think that this team that we've got is capable of doing anything, I think we're trying to delude ourselves a wee bit there. But yeah, I just hope that Danny Rowe can keep things respectable this year and we can start building towards a proper Rangers team again.
Yeah, so a false start for the new ownership, but at least the majorly wrong hires now, Martin. These two are all gone out of the club. But as Dave says, it's a long road ahead. Listen, lads, thank you very much, first of all, to Colin.
Absolute pleasure. And yeah, as a long road ahead, this needs to be a bit of a hard reset, I think, where we've messed up the manager, we've messed up these two positions. We now move on, and this is the real start of the new takeover in the new Rangers. But there can't be any more mistakes or calamities like this, though. Cheers, guys.
No, there can't be. And my thanks to Dave.
I'll just say, whoever Kevin Thelwell ends up next, because he will get another job.
Of course he
my,
will.
my heart goes out to you. It really does.
Exactly. But football, you're absolutely right. You know what it's like. Hopefully he buys Yusuf Chamiti. Yeah,
well, I think he owes us that.
Yeah, all joking aside. But yeah, these were bad hires. And, fair play to them for removing them. I don't want to wax lyrical and say, oh, brilliant, they've got rid of them because they shouldn't have hired them. You're fixing a mistake means you've made a mistake, but at least they are beginning to fix it. We'll have loads more on this throughout the day, folks. Daily update, flagship later on today. So until then, I'll speak to you later. Bye-bye.
That was a Heart and Hand production.